This episode was recorded at the London Hopyard Studios, and you are listening to the Wholesome Way podcast, hosted by Alexander Lobb.
Susanna, welcome to the Wholesome Way podcast. It's so good to have you.
I know. This is so fun that we get to do this in person after just meeting like 2 days ago.
Yeah, finally for the first time. Gosh, where to start? I think I wanted to first start by just saying how grateful I am for you going through your coaching program with all your clients for the past 5 months now.
Yeah, it's gone very quickly.
Yeah, super quickly. And I just absolutely love your approach, and you've really turned my life down a different path that I'm just feeling. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I'm loving it. And it's finally good to meet in person. So.
Oh wow, I love this. I love this so much, and I'm sure we're going to go into my story in a second, but I love like this story of how you went from being in tech and as the CSM to running your own podcast. And that's literally what I did. Like 2.5 years ago, I was a CSM, as you know, and I customer success manager for anyone that's kind of listening. And then I had started my podcast, and that was the first thing I did. So it's kind of cool to watch you do this now and to come full circle and record this with you. So yeah, very grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. You're obviously an idol of mine, and I'm really inspired by you. So
thank you.
And this podcast might not be here today if I hadn't met you. So
yeah, how cool, amazing.
So you're a life and career coach. You have your Coaching by Susanna program, which I'm a part of, obviously. You started an online community recently that's very much aligned with your coaching program. You run somatic breathwork sessions, meditations, retreats. That must be the dream. How are you feeling about that?
I love it. I mean, it really is the dream. And, I think there was intentionality behind it, but then also I've just gone with the flow, and I've kind of just gone with where my heart flows. And, I always, as you know, I love reflecting, and to reflect back on the last 2.5 years, like I'm pretty happy and proud of like how far I've come. Yes, there are parts of me that like think I could be doing more, and but I also in my heart know that I'm on the right path, and that like great things are ahead. And but also just to be in the present, and I'm so grateful for where I am now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your story. What was going on in your life when you felt the call from your corporate career in customer success in tech for so many years, 17 years? What was going on in your life to make that step into the entrepreneurial portfolio during that?
Yeah, such a good question. And people always ask me, because they're like, how did you go from tech IT girl to like career and life coach and holistic coach, where I do breathwork and meditation? And to me the dots connect so clearly now. And actually someone asked me the other day, was it like an instantaneous decision? And I can see how maybe on the outside, when I tell the story, it looked like that. But actually, I'll kind of dial it back. So I am English and German. I sound American. I lived in Australia for 10 years. So I'm just this, mixed breed. And I went to boarding. I grew up in Singapore, but when I was 13, my parents moved to India. So I stayed in boarding school. And I remember always thinking that I was a very introverted child and kind of shy, kind of a bit awkward. And I would always watch from my boarding school dormitory, I would watch the people play basketball on the basketball court. And I would always wonder, what makes that group of people popular and others not? And I guess I was just curious about myself, but also like human dynamics and what made people the way they are. And that curiosity has run throughout my life, and I've always been really into human dynamics. Fast forward, I moved to Australia. I did my undergrad in business there, and I got a job in tech. And, at the time, tech was like my passion, and I loved it. I was always kind of like into technology. I worked at 3 mobile phone before. That was my first kind of like venture into working. And I remember a friend of mine and her husband was a neurosurgeon, and it still is. And I remember thinking it's so obvious to some people what their purpose is, but it wasn't obvious to me. Like, I knew tech was not my end game, and I knew that I wanted to do something with purpose. And, some of my friends were very entrepreneurial, and they were like starting businesses, and they were like, just pick something and do something. And that didn't really resonate with me. I wanted to do something that I was passionate about. And I had this vision of just being like in my 40s, being this like cool entrepreneurial mom. And actually when I'm not a mom yet, but when I was a teenager and I thought about like, what do I want to be when I'm older? I always thought I wanted to be a businesswoman. And that doesn't sound sexy. I didn't want to be a ballerina, or even though I did ballet, I'm kind of clumsy. But I wanted to be a businesswoman. I don't think entrepreneurship was a word back then. But anyway, so I wanted to be a businesswoman. And so I just always had this curiosity about what my purpose was. And, I then continued with life. And then 8 years ago, moved to London. And I came across this lady who did a talk on what personal success is, and long story short, she became my first coach. And I remember, and I was just telling a client this morning, I remember thinking I was very self-aware, but I realized I was only aware of my surroundings and not of myself. And so this really started my transformation journey and my journey into understanding who I was. And I've always been really into journaling, and I would say it probably started when I started working with her. So I'd always write things down and reflect, and I just had this curiosity about like what I wanted to do. I've always also loved courses, and so I started to study. When I was at Salesforce, they gave us like an annual stipend towards further education. So I studied NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is all about the mind-body connection, as you know. I studied coaching, I did advanced coaching, and then, I did postgrad in neuro coaching, and I just kind of kept going whilst coaching people on the side. And I remember like one of my very first clients, and I'm coaching his brother now, but kind of full circle, like he said to me when I met him like a few years after we were working together, I asked for feedback and he started tearing, and he was like, "You've had the biggest impact on my life." Wow. And I remember that moment saying like, this is my purpose. This is what I want to do. So yeah, it started from there. And then to answer your question, like the clincher it was actually an amalgamation. Like I knew in my heart that I had all this creative energy to write and to create. And I joined one more company after Salesforce. But I just had this like creative energy, and I felt kind of constricted and stuck in what I was doing. And it wasn't a, discredit to the company or corporate, but it didn't fit me anymore. And I remember saying I was like showing up as Susanna minus 2.0. I wasn't really myself, and I just felt like it was zapping my energy. So yeah, it was a mixture of like that, and my mom got sick with cancer, and it just really made me reflect on my purpose and time. And so when she passed, I just had this knowing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I kind of ripped the Band-Aid off, and here I am.
Wow.
I look back.
What a story.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, I think, when people go through that chain of moments when they're like, okay, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
I can feel this. I feel this in my bones. And going back to what you said before about creativity, I think and you've opened my eyes to this, is like reflecting and being yourself and using your creative energy really starts to open your eyes to what your purpose is. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps again.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially, I don't want to get too much into this, but schools and corporations kind of don't reward creativity in a way that they should, I think, and that's leading us kind of astray. So it's fantastic that you found that moment, or that series of experiences. And it's
And it's actually a really good point, because I'm tapping into this more and more. Like, it was funny. One of my very first, when I was at the last company, they asked me to do a webinar on mental health, and the weirdest way how it happened. I just had it. I mean, as you know, I really believe in like serendipity and the unexpected and weird things happening and universe. And I had this like meeting pop into my diary, and it said mental health with Susanna, and it was to do a webinar, and like no one could tell me how this happened or why I was like recommended to do this. And the EA, the executive assistant, was like, I don't know who asked, but you've been recommended. And back then I wasn't even in mental health really, but I did a webinar, and like 50 people joined, the presidents, all the C-level suite. I was nervous as hell. And
someone put you on the spot, big time.
Yeah. And you know, it was my mom's birthday. I remember she was still alive, and I was in the house, and I was just like all the feels were.
Yeah.
But I talked about the importance of mind, body, and spirit, and how from a mind perspective, to find something that is creative and a creative outlet for you. Because when you find something that brings you joy, like joy has so many benefits. It raises your energy, your vibration. But also when you are in a moment of creativity, also from a scientific perspective, you are, you know, you change your state from survival to creation. And that is, I mean, this is going a little bit like off tangent, but you know, I've just done, as you know, training with Dr. Joe, and you learn that when you are so connected in the present moment, and you're in a moment of flow and creativity, all possibilities exist. So when you can think of something, like you create it, so you're basically in creation and you're creating your life. And so I always encourage people, a lot of people that come to me in corporate don't know what they want to do. They don't know their purpose. They don't have a hobby, or they might not know what their hobbies are. And so, but tapping back to what brings you joy and what is creativity to you, whether that is art, writing. For me, it was writing. It was also creating my business, and that podcasting, like this to me is creativity.
Yeah.
Creating social media. You know, I did an interior design course during COVID. That was creativity for me. But it can be so many things around art, music, writing, you know, all the things, design.
That's fantastic. And so now you help people achieve this and make this shift. You make them feel more clarity, more confidence, and alignment in both their life and often, you know, their career as well. What was sort of the mindset and energy shifts specifically, and maybe the internal challenges that you went through, that you had to go through personally to make that shift?
Yeah. To make the shift to moving into my own career, it really like dials back to when I moved here 8 years ago. And the reason I got into coaching was I realized that I was like, why are all my friends settled down and, you know, have their kind of life stuff together? Like for me, career was always super easy. Like I would always get the jobs I wanted. Like I would, you know, I did fairly well. You know, I traveled the world, so like all of the things. I worked at great companies, but like relationships and like personal relationships with my family, like that was always tough. And, you know, all of this is kind of interrelated as well, right? And so I realized that it had to be something to do with me, but I didn't know what. And so what I started to realize was that I had, a lot of like patterns of feeling like a victim. I had a lot of like subconscious beliefs that I had to work through and to, you know, move. I mean, there's so many things from like, you inherit so many beliefs from your parents and from your upbringing, and I used to blame my parents, by the way, but the big part of my healing journey has been in acceptance and forgiveness and a knowing that, and compassion to like, they did the best that they could do with what they had and the resources and their level of consciousness and awareness. And that's been, it's been a big part of my growth, has been becoming, forgiving my parents and becoming closer to them because of all of these things. So to answer your question, like, yeah, I had to really, from a mindset perspective, become aware. And I always say awareness is the first step to change. I had to become aware of my patterns in order to work through them. And that has been a journey, and it's like, it never stops. And that's not to say that, we're not broken, but it's about, for me, continually like trying to be a better version of myself. And so, yeah, my mindset is just like anything is possible. I am the creator of my destiny, and I am always creating. And if I keep hitting a roadblock, then that's for me to work on. If I keep manifesting and attracting like negative situations, I realize like, no, I've had this like loads. Even the beginning of this year, I had like 2 months where nothing was flowing and I was like in a very negative energy, and I had to pull myself out of that and focus on my energy. And so I know that my energy and my mindset is everything now. And because I have the tools and the awareness, I know that I'm in control, and we're like shifting that. So that has probably been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, especially on the upbringing and environment and the values we've been taught, not only from our parents too. Like, it comes down to, if you think about it, most of our life as a kid was spent at school. So you're actually getting those values and the beliefs and whatever from the teachers and the people and your friends, who you're spending time with. So it's also that aspect too. But yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So now, your coaching program, Coaching by Susanna, I absolutely love how genuine and practical it is to my life. And obviously you blend, practical life and career strategies with things like limiting beliefs, which you mentioned before, intention setting, emotional well-being through breath work. How do you make that blend? Because I think it is quite, it's definitely effective, but I think it's not as widely accepted. I have speaking to people about this, it's like, oh, that's voodoo stuff, which is from what I've seen is completely wrong. Like it's so powerful. How do you make that blend between the practical,
Well, I guess the more I get into this work and learn, the more it's, to me, change happens from within, right? And I think this, I'm into spirituality, but what is spirituality? Spirituality is, consciousness. It's awareness. It's awareness of who you are. And it's a connection with yourself, and it's a connection with, the divine, or like energy, God, whatever you want to, the oppressor you want to call it. And so I like to bridge the gap between spirituality and science, and because there is science behind understanding, how your thoughts, feelings, how your personality, how you think, act, and feel, how that creates your personal reality. And so, and that's the training that I've just come back from, right? And so I always like to meet people where they're at, whilst also inspiring and educating them with my own story. So it is important to have the practical element of like, okay, what's clarity to you? And like with you or any client that I work with, I just onboarded someone this morning. To him, he really wants to focus on like he hasn't found clarity in his career in the last 15 years and really wants to find that clarity. So it's important to know where you're going, but to know where you're going has to start from within. You have to peel back the layers of the onion of who you are. And that can be a big deconditioning process, deconditioning to what society, your parents, your friends, you know, how they've maybe influenced your mind and your perception of things, but really at the core of like, who are you? That's so important to unravel. And yeah, so it's I forget now the original question.
So how do you make that blend?
Yeah.
In the practical career aspect of things with clearing limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Okay. So
Tensions. Yeah.
So here's the thing, like you can have a desire. You can say, I want to be like, you know, an entrepreneur that makes $1 million, like, and I want to, you know, live in my dream house. But if your subconscious doesn't believe it is available to you because you have not seen that in your life, your parents have kind of maybe conditioned you or, you know, said that it's not possible, or, you know, someone said to me the other day, like, oh, I've just never seen it, you know, from my friends, or I've never had a role model that showed me that this is available. Well, here's the thing. The reason why, you know, sometimes the rich get richer and the poor get poorer is because the rich see it in their life, right? So they believe it. So they keep going for it. They keep manifesting that. So the trick is, and the reason why it's so important to bring the limiting beliefs and fears and doubts and also the energetics around it, and I'll go into that in a second, is because if you have this vision and you, let's say you put on your vision board, if your body and your mind and your subconscious mind doesn't believe it, it won't happen, because you manifest just basically means to bring into reality. And we can talk about, you know, what manifestation is in a second, but if you don't believe it, then you will manifest that belief. So that's why for me it's the formula for change. You have to know and have a clear intention. You have to work through your belief system, and you have to feel it in your body. You have to feel it in your body, because how you feel attracts your reality, and we can talk about that in a second. So it kind of, if someone says it's not possible, then or like it's too woo-woo, then, you know, I guess it's my role to educate like what it really means to be the creator of your life, and why, you know, how you think, act, and feel, and your energy is everything.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I guess part of your role as the coach, as you just said, is to sort of like translate that into like their language. Like you said, meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And so your job is to, I guess, lead them down to a path where it sounds not easy to do, but it sounds within grasp.
Yeah, exactly. Like if someone has, you know, not been exposed to, you know, inner work kind of philosophies, or things like, you know, your energetics and how you can change your reality or manifestation, or then, you know, I will slowly weave it in, and, you know, I like to give examples. And then I, you know, in the course we also have like different webinars and trainings. But if I start to hear certain repetitive language, like, you know, like that's not realistic, you know, I hear that a lot. Like when I say, what would success look and feel like to you in 6 months? A lot of the times people will limit themselves and they say, yeah, but that's not realistic. So like realistically, what I can, and I always encourage people to dream big. And, you know, your imagination is so powerful. And if you can dream, like, it's crazy what you can manifest. And so I try to sort of like blend in some of the creative tools of like dreaming and imagining and seeing what's possible, and then educating them through the science behind how it works. And it's, you know, I never force things. I try to educate and inspire. And yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, obviously, I already was a big believer in manifestation, having seen it happen right in front of me, like in my eyes. Like, how did that just happen? Like, you just literally speak things into reality. Like my previous job when I was back in Sydney, I really wanted to get out of my role. And this opportunity came up, and I just really, really wanted it so bad. And so my mom always told me, she's always into manifestation as well. So this is why I'm very attuned to it already. Thanks, Mum. And she always said, oh, you should like draw a picture. And so she was literally, I've seen this happen in our house. We would have pictures up of what she wanted our lives to look like in like 2 years' time. So she had literally a picture of the house that they were looking at, like wanting to go and rent, and like with a boat, with the dog, and everyone's happy, everyone's living together.
I love it.
It happened in 6 months.
No way.
The exact house that was on the fridge. We had a boat. Dad bought a boat as well, and managed to get a spot, a mooring right down below, like below. So I was like, okay, it just came into my reality. I said, yeah, this is definitely a thing for sure. And that's when you really start to believe something like that, is when it happens in front of you. You can look at all the scientific evidence behind something, and that's great. It's a really good complementary clarification that it is a thing, but until you experience it for yourself, you're not going to believe it.
And that's the thing, you have to believe it. And so I always like to encourage people to experiment with it and try it with something small. Because the more you start believing, the more it's like a snowball effect. The more you see people in your life that are successful, that have taken the leap to run their own business, the more you're going to believe it. And that's why I also like to encourage people to look for role models or expanders, people that are going to expand your horizon and help you to see it can be possible. Now, whether that's in your circumference of friends, or that's maybe celebrities or people that you follow that you think this is who I want to kind of look up to. And the way manifestation works is you have to have a clear intention, you have to believe it, but also you have to surrender. You have to surrender to how, because, and maybe sometimes people feel like, well, what does surrender mean? That sounds like me just being lazy. But no, actually the surrendering is the letting go of expectation. It's the letting go of the how. And think of it as energetically, we are made of atoms. 99% of our body is atoms. And so we are energy. We are vibrating at different frequencies. And like a magnet, like attracts like, right? So if that's why your energy creates your reality. And so if you are feeling high vibration, you set the intention, you bring that event closer to you. And that's where there's a vibrational match. So that's why your thoughts are so powerful, but also your feelings. So the how it works is the thought creates the intention and it sends it into the field. Think of it as you've sent your little magnetic frequency into the field.
Into the magnetic field, yeah.
Yeah, because we are we are in the universe, right? So it's not a woo-woo thing. Or you can say the field, the quantum field, and the feeling in your heart. So here's the thing, your heart is the biggest electromagnetic conductor in your body. You create an electromagnetic field around you, like an aura. That's what your aura basically is. And the more you feel love, bliss, gratitude, all those higher vibration emotions, the more you feel it, the more you draw the event like a magnet to you. So that's why practicing this work and doing, we can talk about meditation in a second, but meditation is a really powerful way to do that. Or doing creative things or doing things that bring you joy, because the more you do that, the more you bring it to you. And yeah, it's crazy what you can manifest, and you just have to surrender to how it's going to happen, because whatever is a vibrational match will connect with you. So that's why I love intention setting and doing this work, because it's crazy stuff happens.
Absolutely. And what I've experienced in my own life, but also through your program with the Seek into Life group calls as well, is that you can amplify that energy and those thoughts that you're sending out with other people. And you can become even more powerful, like a huge transmitter.
Yeah.
And I use that, as I was mentioning before, my job that I really wanted during the interview process. I actually drew a picture of myself, very simple, because I can't draw.
Nor have I. And I can't write well either.
Yeah. And so I drew a little cartoon of myself saying, I got the job, with literally the salary that I wanted. And I'm so happy. I can't believe this is happening. And I stuck it up on the wall. and right next to the dinner table in our apartment. And so people would, and this would be up for, this photo picture would have been up for 2 weeks. And so everyone that was coming over would see it and be like, oh, what's that? Like kind of in like a weird, like, okay, creepy way. Like, what is this? And so we'd have dinner and I'd explain, well, this is a technique called manifestation.
Yeah.
And if you draw a picture about something and that you want to come into your life, like it'll happen.
Yeah.
And so, and people were very receptive to it.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, okay. And so they're looking at it, and every time that someone looked at it, I believe that then amplifies that signal to bring out that intention to bring it into reality. Mm-hmm. Of course, I got the job and I got like 10K more than what I wanted.
Yeah. And
they were like, oh, we'll give you this. So okay.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like when you voice your intention, you amplify the energy around it. And, you know, it's, I mean, if I can share a story, like how my podcast journey started is also super crazy.
Yeah.
I had a podcast on my vision board and I was still working in tech, right? This was in the peak of like, my mom was sick. I was, you know, I had started my coaching Instagram page. I'd let 70 people. Back then it was called the Who Am I Coach, or Who Am I, something like that, because I was like really passionate about helping people figure out who they are. I'm very literal. That's my German side. And anyway, I had a thing of a podcast. I was like, I'd love, kind of in the subliminally, like, or subconsciously, I had this intention to do a podcast. And one day I got this ping in my head. I was on a walk and it was to do a post on my favorite podcast. And I was walking and writing, which probably isn't the right idea. And I wrote this post of like three podcasts that I follow, pretty prominent podcasts, like with millions of followers. And there were 3 people, and one of them wrote back and said, thanks so much, you rock. And, you know, he has a podcast called Success Story, which also I like the name. And, you know, we started chatting, and actually, I won't say what I said, but I kind of classic me. I wrote a typo, and it was quite a bad typo. And he had reshared it on his Instagram, and he was like, thanks for the post. I don't know what she's saying, but I'll take it. And anyway, long story short, we just started chatting, and I was like very grateful that he was even responding to my messages. And I mean, there was nothing there. He's got a very prominent partner, and who has, you know, 8 million followers on Instagram. But I asked him one day, like, hey, have you ever thought of doing a podcast on yourself? And, you know, I've always been really curious about people and what's their story of success. And he was like, oh, that's not really my thing. But if you want to interview me on your podcast, I'd be happy to. And so here was an opportunity that came out of nowhere that I was like, oh my God, I have to take this opportunity. This is like me creating my podcast. Yeah. And so he's the reason, you know, and if he's listening, Scott Clary, like, he's the reason I started my podcast, and I'm so grateful for that. And I ended up interviewing so many like prominent people, and people would find me and I would interview them, and it was amazing. And so that was an example of like, I had an intention. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but like, wow, serendipitously that happened. And he's got like 2 million followers on Instagram. So you just never know. You just never know. And here's like, you know, I love to read, and there's a book called Connect the Dots by Christine Bach, I think. And he talks about codifying serendipity. And serendipity is basically an unexpected event, recognizing it, and then taking action. So most of the time we think of it in like a romantic sense, which is the same, right? It's like, people always say it was so unexpected how I met my partner, like most of the time, right? And then, you know, they have to do something about it, because like meeting someone and not doing, then that's not serendipity. But yeah, so that always kind of like resonated with me.
Incredible. Yeah. I wanted to just mention one of the techniques that you have in your intentions journal, which I love.
Love the little product.
Everyone should buy this. Yeah, it's going to change your life. The one thing that I love about it is just the questions. Questions, the power of questions is so underrated, I think, especially in revealing to yourself what you're good at. What really gets you going, like what sparks the fire within you, and to then propel that forward into making improvements in your life, your career. So yeah, and also it seems simple to just ask yourself and write answers to these questions, but I think it also takes a lot of courage. I've found myself like really having to think really, really hard about these questions that I've never really asked myself before I started your program. Things like, what are your biggest accomplishments? Because we get so caught up, like it's easy to forget what you've accomplished. Like just have a look back and enjoy the view for a bit to propel you forward. And things like, what was your wisest decision? And I don't think the average person asks themselves those questions at all, but if not, very frequently. But I just found that practice of answering those questions and doing that regularly has just made me achieve wonders, I think.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. So actually the program all started with a journal. The journal, I've always been, like I said, a big journaler, well, at least in the last sort of 8 to 10 years. And I am quite a strategic kind of thinker. And to me, I've read many books and done many exercises and journaled myself. But to me, the structure made sense. It made sense that you have to reflect. You have to, and it's such an important practice to do regularly. Like, what has and hasn't worked for you in your last career. I mean, we do it from a career perspective, but also in your life. And if, people tend to get into the same patterns again and again, right? Because you recreate your reality based on past events. That's just how it works. Unless you become aware and you break the pattern. And that's why reflection is so important. You have to reflect. You have to become aware. And awareness is everything. I always say awareness is the first step to change. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting on the topic of patterns and those subconscious patterns that you have mentioned before. I'd love to go into a bit more detail about that because subconscious is a big word, I think, for a lot of us. It's we know what it means, but being aware of it and defining it and understanding what it is so that we can change it is another story. Honestly, in your program, you help people move from being overwhelmed, lost, burnt out into having clarity, confidence and alignment. What are these subconscious patterns that you see again and again, and what helps shift those patterns? You mentioned reflection, but yeah.
Yeah, well, let me define subconscious because I'm not sure everyone knows. So our subconscious runs 95% of our brain. So meaning,
Wow.
Yeah, so only 5% of what you do in a waking day is conscious. So things from waking up, brushing your teeth, breathing, getting into the car, driving your car, eating, these are all subconscious programs. Think of your subconscious like you're a software program. And you have created habits, behaviors, thoughts, feelings, all based on past events. You have learned these behaviors, and a lot of them are supportive to help you wake up and do all the things that you need to do, the skills you've learned. But some of them can be limiting. And a limiting belief is, it's a belief that holds you back. It holds you back from where you want to get to. And it's the opposite of a desire. And it's also the opposite of confidence, because confidence is a belief and trust that you can do or have something. But a limiting belief is you don't believe that you can do or have something. So when you become more confident, it's like the opposing sides of the scale. So your subconscious, is the seat to to everything. And so you have to become so aware of the beliefs that are holding you back. And that's why I say awareness is the first step to change. And, you know, limiting beliefs can be anything from like, I'm not good enough, I don't have the skills, I don't have time. I always hear, I don't have time, I don't have money, you know, I can't do this, you know, it's not realistic. But these are all beliefs. They're all limiting beliefs. And here's the thing, like, actually, anything is possible if you believe it. Now, obviously, within, like, you can't change someone else, but, like, you can change your situation and reality. I mean, think about, like, all of the things around us. Like, someone had to have a belief that creating, you know, this microphone and creating, you know, studio, or creating the plane, or, you know, the telephone, you know, I'm looking at this fake telephone over there. But like, someone had to have that thought and believe it was possible and created it.
And believe that it would be used and that it would be helpful and useful for society.
Yeah. I mean, I remember 20 years ago when we had landlines, and my dad was like, I don't even know how my dad had this thought. He was like, one day we're going to be looking into our phone, we're going to be seeing each other. And like, that just seemed so outlandish. That seems so outlandish. And then fast forward, that was my first job. I worked at 3 selling video phones. And, you know, and so that's why I say imagination is so powerful. Like, look at what Elon Musk, and whether you like him or hate him, you know, is doing. And you know, the biggest inventors and creators in this world have crazy imaginations. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Love that. I think, in thinking about getting out of those patterns, I think there are certainly there's a physical element to it as well, which is what I found. You really need to work hard to change your physical environment, I think, to shift out of its patterns. I found that personally works for me, because it's part of the reason why we moved to London. You know, my partner and I, we wanted to obviously travel, see the world before we, you know, settle down, because it's a great time to do it. But also at the same time, we decided to go on this self-discovery journey. And the only way, I think, not the only way, because I don't want it to be a limiting belief, but one of the best ways is to, I think, remove yourself from the environment, the cycle that you're in, so that you can breathe and think and create. I don't know if that resonates with you.
This is such an interesting topic, and it's going to be a bit of like a debate, contrast, because I agree. I mean, look, I'm a summer girl. I love traveling. Traveling inspires me. And, you know, I've just come back from Turkey, and every time I travel, I see what's possible, and I'm inspired, and it allows me to dream bigger. It allows me to connect more with my intention and what I want. And, you know, I partially why I've been traveling is because I also like warm summer weather, and I like being by the ocean. And, you know, I don't like to be in winter here where it's grim and dark. And so, yes, from that perspective, I agree with the environment. But actually, the contrast that I'm going to just, you know, contrast with what I've just said is actually, and this is what I've just come back from the training with, is you have to have a clear vision of what you want, but to really change, and I don't know how much context to give, but like, to change, you have to change how you think, act, and feel, right? But you have to have a clear intention of what you want and that vision. And you have to be greater than your environment, you have to be greater than your body, and you have to be greater than time. So if you let your environment dictate you, that means you're letting your environment, things, people, places in your world. Let's say you have a really, you know, tough relationship with your parents, and you blame them, you know, and energetically you feel anger towards them. Well, here's the thing, that energy and those thoughts that you keep firing and wiring are going to impact your reality. So conversely, if you can say, well, I'm not going to let my environment, the people, the things, I'm not going to let the pain in my body, I'm not going to let like all the things that I need to do affect my vision for the future. because I'm going to believe and connect with that vision so fiercely and just be in the knowing that it's going to happen, well, then you're going to make it happen. So whilst, yes, I love the environment, to influence me, it shouldn't be the thing that defines or changes your vision.
Shouldn't be the one and only. Yeah.
You should actually overcome your environment by going inwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely rings true.
Yeah.
Sure. Because you could travel forever, but
which I've been doing, right?
Yeah.
And
you've been leveraging it in a way that's complementary to.
But in a way, it's funny because like I do reflect on this, and I reflect on, and we were just talking about, my desire to maybe stay in London instead of like moving to Portugal, and I have been thinking also a lot about like the environment and not letting the weather or, the lack of things dictate my vision, because it will happen in a way that you least expect. And, I just got invited to something next week, and, it's crazy. And, that came out of nowhere. And, you just really never know. You just really never know. So you just have to keep staying to your intention. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is, don't let the environment be the thing that dictates your success.
I love that. Yeah. That rings true. So switching gears a little bit towards the theme of life balance, life-work balance. Mm-hmm. I know that's sort of like an indirect, kind of direct benefit of your method, your magnetic success method, which is awesome. Works a treat. You help people move from feeling lost and overwhelmed in the life situation that they're in, but also they might be stuck in a career that's not reflecting who they are anymore. What are a couple of simple, practical, tips that you normally recommend to, be aware of that and make a change to a more fulfilling path?
Yeah. So it all starts with clarity. And whilst clarity sounds like such a maybe ambiguous, thing, it's really so important to go on this path of clarity. And it's the first pillar that I always work with everyone on. And you have to become clear on what your priorities are. Like, what are the areas in your life that are important, and to be fairly laser focused, right? Because the problem with where people get overwhelmed or burned out is they try to do everything. They try to do everything and they don't do anything well. And they try to start. What I also tend to see is like people pleasing. And I say this with compassion because this is, who I was, and I still have to be very conscious. Like, I can get super distracted and try to do everything. And then I go back to okay, what are my 3 priority areas? And so, when you know what your priority areas are and you can get really clear and set your intentions, I love to do it every week. Write down, what's going to make this week a success. Diarize it. I mean, there's simple things, and then create habits and get into a routine where you are doing a little bit of mind, body, and soul. And so, I start most of my days doing some kind of meditation or breath work. This morning I did a bit of tapping, EFT tapping. I try to move my body every day. I try to eat, I'm not perfect in terms of eating. I like to go out and have fun as well.
Absolutely.
And fun is so important, by the way. I think one of my favorite quotes by Gabby Bernstein is, measure your success in life by how much fun you're having. And that is so true. Why do something you don't love in any area in your life? So yeah, you have to get clear on what's important to you, create focus, create habits and routine. Or I don't know, routine sometimes doesn't always resonate with everyone, but you have to have that clarity of what is important, and then create habits and yeah, be intentional about your life.
Yeah. Amazing. That's good tips.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to do a bit of a first for the episodes. Before, obviously, we recorded today, I asked the community about if they had any questions around life balance and your method. So actually do have a listener who's got a question. Yeah? Great. So this is from Ollie. Thanks, Ollie. Ollie says, I've recently been moved teams as a result of a restructure. Same role, but now focused on a different product. And he says, it's in my nature to care about doing a good job and I want to hit the ground running. That said, I'm very mindful that I need to be patient with myself and allow the time and space to onboard with the new product, learn the ropes, which is a big steep learning curve. Not to mention a new team and manager probably have expectations of how it go. What suggested approaches and tips can you recommend to balance the above while maintaining a work-life balance with the things I enjoy outside of work so as not to put too much pressure on myself?
Yeah. So kind of like dovetailing from what I just said, you have to get really clear from a work perspective on what is a priority. And I speak to so many people where they're like also moving roles and then they try to like almost do both roles at the same time. And, this is like super simple, but align with your manager on expectations, align with like your job, like your role and responsibility so that you're on the same page, but you're also focused on what like really matters. And, however, get clear on what you define as success and what he or she defines as success. And then work towards that and get good at delegating and saying no. And this is part of the people pleasing, right? Because you say yes, like one of my clients like keeps saying yes to things and then as a result is like overwhelmed. And then you're not delivering successfully to, what your role and the expectations are. And this is also really simple, but you have to have weekly, at least one-to-ones with your line manager. Like, I know it sounds simple, but if you don't have that line of communication and you're not setting expectations and you're not getting feedback, ask for feedback. It's, and have that regular open communication so you know what you're doing right or wrong. Where you can improve and then you can stay focused on that. And then you have to build in, like I was saying before, you have to build in things that are going to help you like support what's called your parasympathetic nervous system. So your sympathetic nervous system is the go, go, go. It's the action oriented. It's the do, do, do. But if you are living in that for too long, it's going to result in stress. It's going to result in anxiety and potentially going down path of burnout or disease, right? And your body is not built, our bodies are not built to be in the sympathetic nervous system for, 24/7.
That's the fight or flight mode, right?
Fight or flight, yeah. And, as mammals and prehistorically, that was to help us to survive, right? And animals have this built in them too, that they snap out of it quickly and snap back into homeostasis and they snap back into this parasympathetic nervous system. We don't, because we live in this busy lifestyle, in this go, go, go all the time, and it's not healthy. So what I would say to Ollie is like, do things that are going to balance your nervous system and be intentional about it. So things like walking, things like meditating, things like breath work, things like journaling, yoga, like Pilates, like lower activity things that are going to just balance you out. And I remember being at a retreat a few years ago, and one of the facilitators asked all of us, like, how much of your day do you spend in your parasympathetic nervous system? And I was like, at the time, like 5%. And I realized, like, wow, that has to change. So that's why, like, I'm very intentional now about doing more meditation and breathwork daily, walking, and just having like me time. So
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with the walking and the movement. Like ever since I was 17, like I remember this one moment where I had a soccer training fitness session every Wednesday before school, and I'd never really done exercise before school or work back then, but I remember just feeling this amazing energy and buzz and on this one particular Wednesday morning, like ready for school. And it's always sat with me. Like, I think people say, oh, I've got to do my exercise at lunch or at the end of the day because that's when I like doing it. But doing these things in the morning, like this breath work and the movement for really sets your day up. And I think I believe that everyone should be doing it. And the companies should be encouraging it. I think walking meetings like just should be a default.
I know. I love doing them during COVID. It was so great.
It's so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to start doing walking coaching, like walk and talks. Actually, someone gave me the idea, and I think if you can make it work, like it's a great.
Yeah, I love that idea. And also, I completely agree with what you said about in your advice to Ollie with setting the tone from the start from a more career point of view with your manager, because especially in Australia, we have this sort of culture and way of doing things that beats around the bush a little bit. It's like everything is sort of assumed because we're really nice to each other, and we don't want to upset each other, and but then essentially you let that fester, and there becomes a big gap between expectations and feelings of how that employee is doing and feelings towards the manager, and then you end up going your separate ways and you lose the employee, or you lose your job. And so setting the tone from the start, I think, and having the courage to really speak up about that and ask for feedback from the start and as you're going. I resonate with that a lot.
It's so important. You have to have open communication, not just in work, but in relationships too, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been fantastic. I do have some wrap-up questions.
Sure.
If that's cool.
Of course.
Always love to ask my guests these ones. So number one, what's your number one guilty pleasure?
I was thinking about this on the tube. Honestly, I love a good glass of red wine and chocolate, dark chocolate. I don't know if that's guilty. I love a good night out and dancing. I've just come back from Turkey. We went out pretty much every night, and that's I guess my guilty pleasure. Fries. I really love like thick cut chips from a pub. That's also red wine, chocolate, thick cut chips, good people, and a bit of a dance. Like, love it. Yeah.
What's the book that's changed your life the most?
Oh my god! Actually, I couldn't think about it because I read so many books. I mean, I'll say. Can I say a few?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, okay. Well, I'm rereading "Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself" by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and that was the first book I read during COVID when I just come out of a relationship, and that really started to get me thinking about how I was a part of my problem. So that I just reread The Surrender Experiment, as you know, and I am like super into this way of living now, which is surrendering to like just be in the present. Don't hold on to an expectation of, and just flow. I've always been a planner. I've always been like, what's next? And actually the invitation is to just listen to your body and your intuition more, and to like go with what feels right and just surrender. And so many crazy things will come your way, and you just say yes to what feels aligned. And it is a beautiful way of living. So I would say that as well. And then another one, because I'm a bit of a romantic at heart, with a scientific kind of like, I'm not science-based, but I love how science helps to give reasoning and belief. And there's an amazing author and psychiatrist called Dr. Unveils, Weiss. And the first book I read, someone gave it to me, called Many Lives, Many Masters, and it's all about past lives. And like he talks about how he accidentally gave past life regression therapy to someone, and she went into her past life and remembered everything with such detail. And then this is the whole story, but like by virtue, you can heal yourself. But the book that I really love that I read twice too, I don't read a lot of books twice, only unless I love them, is called Only Love is Real. And it's all about how the science behind soulmates and soulmates meeting in different lives, but in this life, and how it's like a movie. You have to read it. So I would say those three at the moment. Yeah.
And the biggest life lesson you've learned to date?
I was thinking about this earlier, and I think it is to dream big and believe that anything is possible.
How about that? Is it. Yeah.
Just like keep believing, like, you know, just when you feel off kilter, when you just go back to your vision, like, and dream, because we have insane imaginations, and like your imagination will create what you want and pull that to you. Yeah.
What's coming up for you? What are you excited for? What are you feeling into? Anything coming up?
Yeah.
You're really excited about?
I'm excited to get back into retreats. I really miss retreats. I am also super excited about getting back into the corporate world, meaning like doing corporate training through this training that I just did, and impacting people in a bigger way from the inside out. And, you know, I came from corporate. I work with individuals, as you know, at the moment. But I think so many people are unhappy. So many people are burned out. So many people are like lacking in purpose. And it's because of a lack of connection with themselves. And I really want to make that change. And I want to do it, through training, but also through like fun, intimate retreats. Like I love a retreat. So I've been to gazillion retreats, and I love designing things that are with purpose and fun, and really bringing people on an experience and doing it in fun destinations. So I have been invited to facilitate one in Peru next year, so I'm excited about that. I've just come back from Turkey and went to this amazing wellness village that I am inspired to do something there. And I love dance, so I want to incorporate some dance into it, or in Portugal. So stay tuned for 2026.
I can't wait. I'll be coming to you to it. Well, where can our listeners, our community, follow you on your journey?
Thank you. So I'm on Instagram mainly. So it's Coaching by Susanna, Susanna. The same is my website, coachingbysusanna.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Susanna Kenyon-Muir, which is KENYUN-MUIR. So, yeah.
Amazing. Obviously, I'll put all the links in the description of the episode so everyone can follow you and see what your program is all about, and the retreats, obviously.
Yeah, amazing. And I'd love to speak. I always like to connect with people, you know, either like on messages or, you know, I offer free discovery calls. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Susanna, this has been a truly wholesome conversation.
Cute.
And I've enjoyed it so much to hear your wisdom in a bit more of a, different medium than we're used to in the coaching calls. So it's been fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've loved it. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of The Wholesome Way. And until then, see you next time and stay wholesome.
I hope something resonated with you in this conversation, and that you've taken a practical tip or two to set you on your wholesome way. If you liked what you heard, please give The Wholesome Way a follow on your podcast app so you know exactly when each weekly episode is ready to stream. And if you would like to be super generous with helping me grow the podcast, click the share button and send it via an Instagram story, a DM, or a WhatsApp message to someone in your family or close friends who would truly relate with the themes, ideas, and practical tips in this episode. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to listen today and for joining me on this incredible journey. Stay wholesome.